let's jump into Fluke for real because we got to talk about, obviously, the names that you're considering here for your lineups. What do we think? What's going to happen? And we've got somebody returning to Fluke for real for the second week in a row, a tight end for the Atlanta Falcons, Kyle Pitts, 14.3 fantasy points, 4 catches, on 6 targets for 43 yards and a touchdown. Finally gets his 4th touchdown of his career. My goodness. Good for him. Fluke for real, Wes?
I'm willing to say for real. I'm willing to.
I think the Falcons' offense is balancing out a little bit.
Yeah.
I think the rush attempts that they had last year are, they're kind of regressing and they're evening out a little bit here. I mean, we saw it. Drake London, we'll talk about him. I mean, we just talk about him now, but Drake London, 21.5 fantasy points, but he had 12 targets. 12 targets on Sunday for Drake London is great. That's something we have yet to see. And something we knew Drake London was always talented. We just never believed in these Falcons pass catchers because we didn't think they were a passing offense. They might be turning the tide a little bit, and that's not much to affect Bijan Robinson. He's still going to be fine. He's still going to have his touches. He's still making insane catches. Like, he's still being used very much in this offense here. But I think I'm willing to, like, if I'm a Kyle Pitts or Drake London owner, I think I feel like okay. Like, I think I feel like vaguely positive putting them in my lineup for until they prove me wrong again.
Yeah,
Until they prove me wrong again, probably a couple times. Like and it's something I wasn't ready to come to terms with. But I think you could roll out Kyle Pitts. Like, I think you can. It's an exciting time. He obviously, the touchdown helps him with his day. If he doesn't get the touchdown, he doesn't have as good of a day. But 14.3 from a tight end after following up a week of like 15 points or something like that when he had, I believe, 8 or 9 targets in that game last week. I think it was I think it was double digits. I think he had like 11 targets last week.
I think so.
Promising stuff here for the Falcons offense potentially. And then Jonnu Smith, 13.6 fantasy points. I think he's maybe starting to fade a little bit, but he obviously gets in the end zone as well here. We'll have to wait and see. I'm not sure about that about Jonnu as a tight end. Somebody I am excited about as a tight end is Michael Mayer, rookie tight
here
end.
He is finally
For the Las Vegas Raiders. Listen, I mean, we already talked about Jimmy Garoppolo exits the game with a back injury. But even when Jimmy G was in there, I believe he looked Michael Mayer's way at least twice while he was in that game. I wasn't watching it very, very closely, but I believe I did see at least 2 targets for Mayer there. Congratulations, Raiders. You're using a highly drafted offensive weapon correctly. Good for you.
Finally.
That's good to hear. There you go. I hope some people follow suit, maybe in the absence of a starting running back, maybe in the Motor City. Who knows? We'll see what happens here. Listen, Michael Mayer, 12.5 fantasy points, 5 catches on 6 targets for 75 yards. 5 for 75 for a tight end is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
He's somebody that if he's on your waiver wire and you've been hopping around from Logan Thomas to, I don't know, Jonnu Smith to somebody else, I think Michael Mayer is somebody you might be able to put in a waiver claim for. He might be a little bit valuable there. I'm going to say I don't want to say fluke because I think we all knew the talent he could be, but I definitely want to see it again.
Well, I'm willing to use a Wednesday ad where I don't have to spend a priority to pick him up and leave him on my bench. I'm not going to fire Michael Mayer up right away, but I mean, there's a reason that they compared him to Rob Gronkowski in college and why he was drafted so early. And he is this good. So I know this will happen. I suspect that as the season goes on, this will be much more consistent. He'll get in the end zone as well. And then we're talking about a tight end that could push for 20 points. And especially in the postseason, if you have a tight end that's not named Travis Kelce that can do that. I'm not saying that's exactly what's going to happen because Davante Adams is still on the team and Jacoby Myers is playing great.
Yeah.
But that's where Mayer's trajectory can go. So for the sake of it, for real.
Yeah. Yeah, there will be better things to come here with Michael Mayer. I think it's going to be exciting. To watch him develop here and to play out. Tyler Boyd, Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver 3, 16.8 fantasy points, 7 catches on 7 targets for 38 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
I'm going to call for real on this.
Dude.
I'm gonna call for real here, and I'll just give context to it. Tyler Boyd, listen, for a flex play, I think you can put Tyler Boyd in a flex if you need him every single week, because Tyler Boyd has had 7 or more targets in every single game since week 2. Now I know T. Higgins has been out. And I know that the offense is figuring things out, but in a game where we found that the Bengals were kind of maybe figuring out the offense a little bit, especially after last week, where they were competitive. They looked like they were playing a little better. Joe Burrow didn't seem to be hindered by the calf too much. It just felt like more of a kind of like a bummed out game, kind of like we had all across the league this week.
Yeah.
Tyler Boyd gets in there 7 targets and finds the end zone. Now, listen, again, if he doesn't find the end zone, it's not as good of a game. But I drafted Tyler Boyd in our listeners league, in our trollers league, Wes, because the trollers listened to us so much that they drafted all the people that I was excited about. So I was like,
oh, same.
Friggin' okay, I guess I'll take Tyler Boyd. Like, I don't know. Like, I guess we'll see what happens here. And I realized dude has quietly been getting really good volume. It just hasn't resulted in much. I had to roll him out this week. Pick the right week to do it. There you go. But I think that Tyler Boyd is probably maybe someone that people don't think about rostering. He might not be rostered in your league. I think he's worth picking up. He gets the looks. And so 16.8 very well could be his best game of the season. But by no means am I like, nah, this is a fluke. I don't know how I can say that when somebody is getting 7 targets or more every single week. So that's where I'm at on Tyler Boyd.
Well, it's a bit of a teaser for our bad section of Fluke for Real, because compared to T. Higgins and how it's been for T. Higgins lately,
yeah,
I'm leaning the same way you are on Tyler Boyd. It just feels like if he's getting this much attention in the offense, clearly Joe Burrow wants to get him the ball. He's running his routes well enough to get 7 targets. And if you take out the touchdown, full PPR game, more than 10 points. That's not the worst thing in the world. So, I mean, obviously, there are going to be games I think is going to... I think 38 yards is pretty low for Tyler Boyd.
Right, that's what I was going to point out, is that the 38 is the biggest concern here. And so he definitely needs to have better games. I want to look at his game log. Something tells me that's probably his lowest yardage output of the season.
So you say,
I'll take a look.
We're on the same page that, like, the touchdown helped him get over 10 points. But I say for the same reason, the 38 yards is why he didn't have even more, because I think... it's a toss-up. You get one or the other. Maybe you get both, and he has a weak winning performance. But, yeah, I'm with you. I'm willing to say this is for real. And, obviously you can sell high and see what you get, or package him to get someone that's really good as well. I have no problem with that.
Right.
But Tyler Boyd's been doing well.
Yeah. So he this is pretty much where he's riding at, is this around this 40-yard mark. Pretty much every single week. So,
okay.
I mean, he went 6 for 52 in week 2, 5 for 39, 4 for 26, 6 for 39 in the Cardinals game, which he had a touchdown called back in that game off of a penalty. He did score, yes, but it came back there. So that could have been a better day for him. And then 7 for 38 in the touchdown, his first of the year. But 11.2, 8.9, and then a 6.6, but then a 9.9, a 16.8. Like, if you're in a deep league, Tyler Boyd, you could pop in as a flex if you need just like 10 points around there, something like that.
12-team league would be a great option for Tyler Boyd.
Yeah,
I think specifically.
Which is where I have him when in our Trollers League. West is a 12-team league with a deeper starting lineup as well. 3 wide receivers and 2 flex in that lineup. So more things to consider there as well. So that is why I do have him there, and why I was able to enjoy the benefits of him finding the end zone here. But Tyler Boyd, deep league stash for sure, getting the volume. Dalton Schultz, hey, 2 weeks in a row now, he finds the end zone. He's getting the looks. He's getting targets. 16.1 fantasy points. I'm going to say fluke on this because I think it could continue until we get Tank Dell back. These things are what coincide here. Is Tank Dell has been gone for 2 weeks, and now Dalton Schultz for the past 2 weeks has been a solid look and a solid play. But when Tank Dell returns, I'm going to need to see what the target outlook is like, because I thought his career was going to go die in Houston, but hey, he's had a couple of good weeks here, so it's good to see Dalton Schultz doing well.
I like the 7 targets. I like the 61 yards off of 4 catches. I mean, it's a lot of yards per catch, and a touchdown. I mean, all those stats are really nice, and it's a consecutive week of this kind of performance. But I have to think that the wide receivers are the priorities. I have to think Nico Collins with Tank Dell are going to be much more reliable. And one thing's for sure, that ground game is not going to help anybody in fantasy. So I'd rather start Dalton Schultz than Dameon Pierce. I'd rather start Dalton Schultz's rushing stats and rushing potential right now over Dameon Pierce.
Hey, Devin Singletary, maybe a sneaky waiver ad. He took over the backfield work this week. It was very interesting to see. We'll see what happens there with Dalton Schultz. I think it's going to be semi for real until Tank Dell gets back. Curtis Samuel, this is interesting. 3 weeks in a row now, he has scored touchdowns. 3 weeks in a row now, he has outperformed Jahan Dotson. 3 weeks in a row now, he's getting double-digit fantasy points, Curtis Samuel is. I think this is for real. I picked him up like on a whim because I was like, this probably isn't a thing, but I need kind of some wide receiver depth here. And, hey, last year we were like, yeah, Curtis Samuel is being used in this offense, and I think he's being used again. I don't understand why. Like, I don't think Curtis Samuel is a better athlete than Jahan Dotson, but, like, that's how it's happening. So I guess Jahan Dotson had 0 points this week. He had 1 target. Curtis Samuel, 4 catches, 4 targets, 42 and a touchdown. Like, that's freaking awesome if you did a desperation Curtis Samuel play. Like, there you go. So kind of for real. Like, I just don't. I don't know what to do here. Like, do we just bench all like Washington Commanders besides Brian Robinson on a good matchup week? Terry McLaurin had like a high target game this week, but I mean, I don't know.
I don't see. It's the same thing that happened with Jahan Dotson to start out last year. Do you remember he had like 2 touchdowns his first game ever, and then like 2 more touchdowns his second game ever, and it was like off of 6 catches at most. And it's not sustainable enough for me to buy into it. I like what happened with Curtis Samuel last year as well, but what Curtis Samuel was also doing last year was running. He had a lot of rushing attempts last year, and that was what was helping him sustain his fantasy success. And so right now I'm not buying it again. I'm happy for those that may have thrown him in for a random reason, but I have to say fluke. Yeah, you gave a look. What did you find out?
Well, do you have a guess on where Curtis Samuel is ranked so far this season? Like wide receiver?
Yeah, I actually do, because it's related to our Thursday night. It's somewhere in like the teens, or 20.
It's a little further back than that, but Curtis Samuel is the wide receiver 24 on the season.
24.
I didn't realize in week 1 he had like a productive game then too. He's Curtis Samuel since week 1, 11 points, and then 6.2, and then 7.4, but then 18.2, 18.5, and then 14.2 this week. And I'm like, he scored a touchdown in 3 straight. I don't know. I can't. It feels like Gabe Davis like to me almost, but like I'm like
Yeah.
baffled that he is a top 24 wide receiver right now. I gotta pray.
Let us know in the
I don't know.
comments. What do you think about the
I don't know
Commanders
what's
team?
going on here.
Is Curtis Samuel reliable? 3 straight weeks with a touchdown. Is that sustainable? What do you let us know? Drop a comment. Give us your opinion on this because we're kind of torn on this.
Yeah, and while we're here, I mean, we'll just discuss Sam Howell of 24.3 fantasy points, 151 yards, and 3 touchdowns in their victory over Atlanta. Bit of a difference from their Thursday night game in Chicago when they threw the ball 51 times, only 23 passes in this game. They were able to rely on the ground game a little bit more. It's kind of fluky, but Sam Howell is, whether it be the system or whether it be what he's kind of doing here, he's producing for fantasy. So he may be like a matchup dependent, like streaming option if you're in need, if you've got people on a bye week this week, if you're in a bind there, I don't know why you would have Tannehill, but if you just lost Tannehill or maybe you had lost Justin Fields, like Howell may not be a terrible option. I don't know who they have on the schedule this upcoming week. Oh, the Giants. So hey, maybe Sam Howell is going to be a stream of the week. Who knows? There you go.
I don't know. Josh Allen didn't do all that great against the Giants defense, dude. Well, here's my take on Sam Howell. He's definitely a great fill-in for a bye week or an injury. He is working in fantasy. I would not qualify him as a starting quarterback in fantasy. But in this bye week, we've got Joe Burrow out. We've got Dak Prescott out. We've got C.J. Stroud out. Yeah, Sam Howell can certainly take over for one of those 3 quarterbacks. And you'll do just fine. So even though 151 yards is barely anything in this NFL, that's 3 touchdowns, fine. Either way, he's going to get you points, and for real.
Yeah, you should be all right. Kareem Hunt, 16.1, has a little bit of a good game here, even though he is still behind Jerome Ford here, and Jerome Ford still had himself a fine day as well in NFL standards. But Kareem Hunt has 16.1 fantasy points, 12 carries for 47 yards and a touchdown, 3 catches for 24 yards. I mean, he still played behind Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford played 38 snaps. Kareem Hunt played 28 snaps. Is this a changing of the guard here, or was it just like, hey, we need to do whatever works against the 49ers to be able to win this game?
I'm calling a fluke on this.
I think so, too.
I think Jerome Ford is still the lead back, and you've got the exact snap count numbers, but the percentage is Jerome Ford 50 and Kareem Hunt 37. And it's a backup quarterback starting. So let's not forget that whenever Deshaun Watson feels like playing football again, that'll change. But, I mean, just also for the context of the game, they fed Jerome Ford for that final drive to get that game-winning field goal. That is what they did to wind down the clock. It wasn't in Kareem Hunt's hands. Sure, Hunt got the touchdown, but for me, this is a fluke, and sell high and buy low on Jerome Ford.
Yeah, I think this is a good opportunity for that. Rashid Shaheed, 18.3 fantasy points, 2 catches. But they go for 85 yards and a touchdown and a couple carries for 18 yards. He had 6 targets, 18.3 fantasy points. I think this is fluky. I think when you catch a deep ball touchdown and then your only other catch is like another like pretty deep ball catch, you're going to have a decent week. So if anyone played him, they're happy. But I don't think he's a reliable start. We'll get into that a little more in our Thursday Night Football preview. But I just think it's a bit fluky here for Rashid Shaheed.
Shaheed.
Zach Moss, 17.9 fantasy points. Another week with Jonathan Taylor. Another week where Zach Moss is the better fantasy scorer. But only 7 rushes for 21 yards and a touchdown. He gets the rushing touchdown. But 6 catches for 38 yards. I'm going to say for real because he's still going to hold value. But the situation is evolving here in Indianapolis. it's going to shift. It's going to change. Zach Moss played 39 snaps, whereas Jonathan Taylor played only 33 snaps. So not much of a difference there, even though last week Jonathan Taylor was only playing like 15% of snaps, like around there. But both of these guys had 14 opportunities each. So it really was a split here, and I do believe that they aren't just going to keep Zach Moss heavily involved when they just pay Jonathan Taylor all this money. I do believe that Zach Moss still will have like flex value, but Jonathan Taylor will be taking over here. So I'm going to call Fluke on this, but I mean, I think it's hard because he's played so well.
He's played really well, man.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is just maybe this is just Shane Steichen doing a committee. Like, maybe this is what this is.
I think we're going to see more often than not low double-digit scores from Zach Moss.
Like
but
your 11 and 12-point games,
but I think he can get in the end zone one way or another because 21 rushing yards and a touchdown would tell. And just the rushing stats: 7 rushes, 21 yards, 1 touchdown. It's like, all right, you kind of just were in the game and happened to score the touchdown. But then you look at a PPR value. And 7 targets, 6 catches, and 38 yards. It's like, well, frick. In fantasy, PPR value goes so far that it's like, he's eventually he's not going to be doing better than Jonathan Taylor, but there's no reason to drop him. There's no reason to move on from Zach Moss unless you can get someone, get a piece that you need. That's all I'll say.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. Definitely. Hey, his teammate, though, Michael Pittman Jr., 19.9 fantasy points, 9 catches for 109 yards, 14 targets. This feels for real, especially with Gardner Minshew. I do believe that this is going to continue. I think this is a very, very telling game for them to, it feels like Minshew's going to be the guy for this season now, probably. Michael Pittman Jr., great option there for your fantasy lineups. That's for real. Kendrick Bourne, 19.3 fantasy points. We saw a little bit of this in week 1 where Kendrick Bourne had this big game. And then he did nothing for like 4 weeks. And now he's back with another big game. 11 targets, 10 catches, 89 yards. This is Fluke. Don't trust this. Don't roll this out. But his teammate, Ramondre Stevenson, 18 fantasy points. Hey, we were a little bit worried about how the offense was looking, how the backfield was breaking down, if he was going to lose time to Ezekiel Elliott. Ramondre Stevenson with 18 fantasy points on Sunday, 10 rushes for 46 yards and a touchdown, 6 targets in the passing game. That is what we were looking for here. 5 catches for 24 yards, gets the PPR value.
You called it.
Here's I hope you guys traded for him. I know I did. I know my wife did. I know another one of my buddies did. This is a good thing here. You did. Yeah, you did this morning. I forgot about that. You had that offer on the table and smashed accept. There you go. Ramondre Stevenson, though, 39 snaps to Ezekiel Elliott's 23. And I don't know if you guys were watching that game. Ramondre Stevenson was forced to miss pretty much that entire third quarter being evaluated for an injury. And he still outsnapped Ezekiel Elliott 39-23.
Yeah.
Here's what happened. My wife was out. I was watching the games. I knew she had just traded for Ramondre Stevenson. She got home. I said, hey, you're looking like you're going to win your matchup this week. I do have bad news, though. And she was like, who got hurt? And I was like, Ramondre Stevenson, the guy you just traded for. And she was like, oh, that stinks. And I was like, I know. We'll look at the waiver wire. We'll see what would be the best option for you. And then I'm just watching again, and I'm like, oh, what? Ramondre Stevenson's out there. What's going on here? I'm like, what just happened? I'm like, did he not get concussed? Like, I don't know if you saw the injury. I was like, I
didn't see it in
thought
real
the dude
time.
got concussed, but I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, he's back out there. Oh my gosh, you just scored a touchdown.
They were going to win. They were going to win if he kept playing.
Right.
So he stepped aside.
They had to take him out for a quarter.
Caleb Williams.
Exactly. Yeah, there you go. But hey, Ramondre Stevenson proving to be the trade target that we wanted here, along with Breece Hall, who has been really exciting. He had a really good game this week. But Ramondre Stevenson, 18 points. This is for real. We knew this was going to happen. We knew this was coming. Keep rolling him out there. Get excited. Alvin Kamara. We're going to talk about him in a little bit. But 17.4 fantasy points. This is for real. I'm going to leave it at that.
Dude.
I'm going to leave it at that because we're going to talk about it on Thursday Night Preview. But I just 17.4 is for real, and I love Alvin Kamara. That is where we're at with this. Zay Flowers, baby. Zay Flowers, 6 catches on 8 targets, 50 yards, and a touchdown. His first touchdown of his NFL career. Does it in London. Gotta love it, man. He gets it done in London. If you guys didn't see his touchdown celebration, it was awesome. He mimed that he was like carrying like a basket of flower petals, and he was just dropping them down the aisle after scoring his touchdown, and he was giving himself his flowers there. But hey, this is for real. We knew this was going to happen. We knew this was going to come. Zay Flowers played more snaps than Mark Andrews on Sunday. Ran as many routes as him, and he leads the team in targets on the year by 12. He has a 12-target margin between him and anybody else on that team. I know everyone's been injured, but he is proving himself to be Lamar's top guy. Mark Andrews is behind him by 12 targets, and I know he missed week 1, but still 12-target lead on those guys is for real. Zay Flowers, keep rolling him out. We're excited to see him find the end zone.
Yeah,
hope it keeps on happening here. It's going to be exciting.
Finally.
Stuff. Garrett Wilson, 17 points. Got banged up a couple times in this game. But 12 targets, 8 catches for 90 yards. We said it after week 1. He's going to have his value. His ceiling's just been a little deteriorated. That was the reason why I ended up trading him away after week 1. I just needed to get some more assets here, which was acquiring Raheem Mostert and Zay Flowers in that trade, which was hysterical, which is just so funny. But Garrett Wilson, 17 points. I think this is for real. I think this offense is figuring some stuff out. I cannot believe this Jets team is 3-3 going into the bye week after losing Aaron Rodgers 4 snaps into his Jets career.
They're a game behind Buffalo.
They're a little gutsy team. They're a gutsy team, and it's interesting to see. And good for Zach Wilson, man. Good for him. If you guys watched Hard Knocks, you saw him and how he just took it like a man, took it like a pro to just take it on the chin. Aaron Rodgers is going to come in. You're getting booted, even though you were the 2nd overall pick. Take it on the chin, and just take a chance to learn from him. And he did, and the offense is humming a little bit better. It seems like so. It'll be interesting to see. They've got a bit of a up and down schedule after the bye week, but Garrett Wilson, this is for real. I don't think you need to be worried about rolling him out. I think we thought you would be.
We've been waiting for his value to return like this since I think about week 2, and it's just been holding out because he's the kind of player who is so immensely talented that you just have to start him and hope that something goes his way. And here's the great thing. No touchdowns. I love when a player is on Fluke for real on the good segment without a touchdown, because that to me just solidifies his stats, his productions. It's sustainable. 8 catches, 12 targets, 90 yards. I mean, you know what I also think is really contributing to why Garrett Wilson is even more for real than just a really good game against the Eagles is Breece Hall is balling.
I was going to say, do you want me to guess, or are you just going to keep rolling with it? Because I was going to say that.
Yeah, keep going. Breece Hall, and this is what we were talking about, and the news that Robert Saleh announced that they finally took Breece Hall off the pitch count. Back-to-back dominating weeks from Breece Hall. Garrett Wilson didn't do that great against Denver, but something clicked, and it's happening, and you can continue to roll him out. Take the good and the bad with Garrett Wilson. Hopefully you make your way to the championship with him, because he was a 1st or 2nd round pick for a lot of people, and it's tough to get rid of him. But I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, I think we'll be all right. I think we'll be okay, especially as we just continue on. They get a bye week, extra time to prepare. It's going to be interesting to see how the offense is moving. And I'm not entirely sure that Aaron Rodgers doesn't think he's going to come back and play sometime this season. Dude, this dude's
walking
like
around
a month ago, and he's like walking around, throwing a ball pregame, no crutches, no walking boot, no any. Dude, what did they teach you in that darkness retreat? What's going on here? He's channeling the inner darkness. I don't know what's happening here. It sounded like he's like in the Illuminati.
Mystic
That's not what
wizard.
I meant, but like,
yeah. Oh, it is.
darkness.
I'll say it. No,
Yeah.
I have no idea.
We'll see what happens here with the Jets, but good for Garrett Wilson getting his fantasy value back up there. Hey, Chuba Hubbard, I think, is going to be the starting running back in Carolina after this bye week. I think he's gonna take Miles Sanders' job, or at the very best, it's gonna be like a 60-40 split for Miles Sanders versus Chuba Hubbard. Maybe even 50-50, but Chuba Hubbard looks better than Miles Sanders does in these two games where we've seen him be the feature back. Or we just saw just this one game with the feature back, but in the games where he was taking more snaps and more priority because Miles Sanders has been a little bit injured. Yeah, Hubbard looks good. Like, I picked him up just because I needed a running back this week to play, and I had Deontay Foreman, and it was like, when it got announced that Miles Sanders was out, I was like, Hubbard's there available for me. I might as well. I think I'm going to grab him. Maybe he gets in the end zone. I feel a little better about him versus Foreman, who's been a healthy scratch this entire season. And I don't think I'm going to drop him. I don't think I am. I think I'm going to keep him in the lineup because I think he at least on the bench for us to see what happens after this bye week. Because if you picked up Chuba Hubbard just off of a whim, and then we come back in week 8 and they play, and it's like, oh wow, Chuba Hubbard, got 60% of snaps and got the majority of the receiving work from the backfield and the majority of the carries. They're changing the offensive scheme here. And the offensive play caller in Carolina, Frank Reich, just announced on Monday that he was turning over the play calling duties to the offensive coordinator. We'll see what happens. I'm not sure. This is going to be interesting. Yeah. I think this could be for real.
Two points I want to add, and then we'll finish up the good portion because there's not much left in our Fluke for real segment here. One, 19 carries is kind of crazy to me, knowing how the Dolphins just steamrolled the Panthers after the first quarter. So it was, what was the final score? 42-21?
42-21, yeah.
Dude, the Panthers were up 14-0, and as Dolphins fans, you and I were like, are we in trouble? And then the Dolphins were like, and go! And then they just destroyed.
Yeah.
19 carries.
Here. Yeah.
Being down for almost for 3/4 of the game, 19 carries, that is huge. This game was so lopsided.
No wonder. It was 88 yards on 19. Like, they were running the ball well against the Dolphins defense. It was like, Chuba Hubbard looks like kind of really good right now. Like, he's moving the ball well here, and so
you know who? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to add on. You think about Hubbard and you think about PPR value. He had one target. Like, this 16-point game came from the run game. It wasn't like he had a big PPR game. You think about him, it was a third down back, a scat back. He gets the dump offs, the screen passes, stuff like that. No, he wasn't involved in the passing game. Like, he just ran the ball well, and I think it's something to monitor here. I think it could be for real.
It's just funny because last year with Deontay Foreman and Chuba Hubbard, he was the PPR back. So it's interesting to see what it looks like when Miles Sanders is there. But the second thing I wanted to say, you have such great integrity, my friend Noah, because you went into the season saying that Miles Sanders was potentially going to be a top 10 running back, and here you are with the full grace to admit, like, it looks like that Miles Sanders may not be the guy. And so I just want to respect that and show that you really are for the people and for the success of fantasy football.
Well, hey, it's good to see a Carolina Panthers running back doing this. This is what I thought the potential could be for Miles Sanders here. And so it's just not been great, and the offense hasn't been great. Hubbard looks better than Miles Sanders has. It could be because he's been a little banged up. I know I know Sanders got in the end zone against Seattle in their game with Andy Dalton starting. But I don't think Sanders loses I don't think he's going to be like drop him or get him at or get him out of your lineup or anything. But I think you need to take a week after the bye week to see what it's gonna look like, and I think he could still hold flex value because I think he could still be involved. I think ultimately they paid the guy, they want to play the guy they paid, or hey, maybe he gets traded. He could be a trade deadline candidate. We'll have to see about that. But definitely going to be interesting there because I know they are looking for a true number one wide receiver.
Huh.
Who knows what that means because they traded one away to get the number one overall pick. Anyways, hey, Wan'Dale Robinson, another guy here we're just going to talk about real quick. 14.2 fantasy points, 8 catches on 8 targets for 62 yards. He was a sleeper guy last year. It seems like he is finding his place in this offense to be able to get 8 targets. I know it was with Tyrod Taylor. I'm not completely convinced that Daniel Jones returns even next week, so maybe this continues again. If he's available, he should probably be somebody you're grabbing off your waiver wire there. I think this has the potential to be kind of for real. When you get 8 targets and you catch every single one of them, you garner a little bit more trust in the offensive coordinator's mind and the quarterback's mind, that kind of thing. So he is going to be involved for sure. He is the slot guy. He should be involved. Brandon Cooks, hey, who would have thought he would almost outscore CeeDee Lamb on Monday Night Football? He finally gets involved here. 4 catches, 4 targets, 36 yards and a touchdown. He has the one carry on the end around. 15-point week for him. He helped me win a week in a Dynasty League, actually, just because I needed to throw somebody in there. And the guy I was playing against had CeeDee Lamb, and I was like, okay, I just can't let CeeDee Lamb outscore Brandon Cooks by like 6 points. And I was like, yeah, like fun, that's going to happen. And then it does, so there you go. So, I mean, fun times there. But this is I want to see it again, but it's encouraging. It's exciting to see Dak Prescott being able to use more weapons than just Tony Pollard and CeeDee Lamb. So I do want to see it again here, but this is interesting. You know, I was like pretty high on Brandon Cooks last year. I do as well. So it's exciting to see Brandon Cooks be involved. Let's get those targets up a little bit. The yards obviously aren't there. He gets saved by a little bit of a touchdown, but we'll see what happens there. And then lastly, Savon Ahmed, 12.4 fantasy points. Fun game to watch. Exciting to see him score. Obviously, he helps me win in my fantasy in the Trollers League. This is a little bit fluky, though, I do believe. I think once Jeff Wilson returns, we're going to need to see how this backfield plays out. But 1 week wonder there for Savon Ahmed. Thank you, Savon. I appreciate the help here.
It's amazing how reliable Miami Dolphins players are in fantasy. I mean,
right.
You need to fill in. Nobody's there. Just gotta throw in Chosen Anderson. See if maybe he sneaks in for a touchdown. If he gets
another 75-yard
hilarious.
Touchdown. Exactly. Yeah,
they're the best offense of all time.
Yeah, let's jump to the bad side of Fluke for real quick. Jump through some of these guys here. Some big names on here. Puka Nacua, 6.6 fantasy points. This is a fluke. Buy low if the Puka Nacua manager is freaking out in your league. I know I own Puka in a lot of leagues. I'm not freaking out. I'm ready to keep rolling it back out there. Here's why. Puka Nacua, 33% target share. 33%. He got a 33% target share while Cooper Kupp had like a 40% target share. He dropped a touchdown, like a diving touchdown in the first half that it would have been a challenging catch. He might have been able to bring it in, but he ended up dropping it. So disappointing week, but if someone's freaking out, buy low. I'm serious. Puka is going to have to be just fine. When you're getting over a 30% target share, like it's not something to worry about.
I have nothing to add. I think this is a fluke. He's going to be just fine.
Yeah. There you go. DeVonta Smith. This one's a little tough. This one's tough because for the first couple weeks, we saw an offense that we thought, hey, week 1 was a little bit of a throwaway, some bad weather, weird game against the Patriots. We'll see what happens here. And then I was like, this Vikings game. He got the deep ball touchdown, and then he got the deep catch, and we were like, yeah, that's the guy we knew. And then since then, he just hasn't really been a factor for this offense. It's been A.J. Brown. So DeVonta Smith with 9.4 fantasy points. The encouraging sign here is the 11 targets. That's the encouraging sign. But he does not look like himself, and A.J. Brown does seem to be the clear-cut alpha receiver. It does seem to feel like A.J. Brown is going to be frequently the first look in this offense. So it's not necessarily I think like DeVonta Smith could have more of like a last year's Jalen Waddle type of season where like he has the weeks where he has like 35 points and like 30 points and like he has those weeks like every now and then and he's like the top 5 wide receiver that week, but then there's also gonna be weeks where he's like the wide receiver like 55 and like it's just not that good of a week for DeVonta Smith. So it's probably for real, unfortunately. sad to say.
I'm so done with this, man. Because here's the thing. You can't bench him. You can't not start DeVonta Smith, especially because it's 11 targets.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating because you know that it only takes one game and then he's going to be back and it's going to be great. Maybe following their first loss. DeVonta Smith can pull Jalen Hurts aside and be like, I also play on the team.
Yeah.
Okay? You can't just keep giving everything to AJ, okay?
Yeah.
It's so frustrating. I mean, I don't have any issue with people wanting to trade him away. Try to get equal value at the very best. It's going to be so hard, but I mean,
it's tough. Yeah, it's disappointing and not what we hoped for DeVonta Smith this season. So we're struggling here.
Shoot hack, frick! Had to get it out.
Yeah,
sorry.
That's perfect. That was a great way to put it. Wes, you want to just rapid fire these?
Please do.
These last few. Ready?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna ask you. Devontae Adams, 4.9 points. Fluke or for real?
For real, but you got to lock him in because it's Devontae Adams.
Exactly. There you go. DJ Moore, 10.1 points. Fluke or for real?
For real. There's no Justin Fields. He's not going to get what he needs. That's my take.
Yeah.
This is for real.
Until Fields returns. Yeah, until Fields returns, this is for real. Hey, Amari DiMercado, 2.7 points. For real?
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
Let's not.
Bye.
No Cardinals running back matters until James Conner comes back. There you go.
Right.
Keontae Ingram, same thing. 7.1 fantasy points. Bye.
Just for you.
For real. There you go. Brandon Ayuk, 11.6.
Fluke. He's going to be just fine. Bad game
He'll
for
be
Purdy
all right.
and the whole offense. He'll be good.
Yeah. Jonathan Taylor, 11.5 points here. I mean, I'm going to say Fluke on this. I think he gets more involved.
Already called it, just as you said earlier about Zach Moss. Yeah, that's Fluke.
Yeah. T. Higgins and DeAndre Hopkins, 4 points and then 3 points. T. Higgins?
T. Higgins, I'm worried about. I think you still start him another week, but I am on the border of calling this for real. There's something about this that I'm not liking here in Cincinnati.
Yeah. Hopkins, 1 catch for 20 yards on 5 targets.
Freaking called it last week, dude.
That's
Titans
what we said. We're like, he's never
my
going to have
least
this
favorite
many
team
targets
this year
ever again. Yeah. It's just so disappointing here for DeAndre Hopkins. Last one is James Cook, 7.1 fantasy points, 14 carries for 71 yards. Let's just take a minute here, 1 minute. I think James Cook might be like matchup dependent. I think like in
it's
games
possible.
where they're kind of cruising, James Cook seems to be very involved and doing well. But like in games over the past 2 weeks where they're not, he hasn't really been involved very much when the Bills are struggling. Like when they're comfortable, James Cook has a good week. When they're not, he's not having a great week. And so, listen, he's still very efficient. This 71 yards on 14 carries is great. Almost more than 5 yards a carry. The 0 targets bothers me a little bit. But it also felt like no one was being targeted unless your name was Stephon Diggs in that game. So I'm not going to call it like a throwaway, but I'm not like bailing out on James Cook. But I'm definitely monitoring it pretty close over the next week or two, just to see here. So we'll see where that goes.
We would have called the Giants an easy matchup, and it came down literally to the finals. It came down to zeros on the clock and a free play on the goal line. So, I mean, James Cook, 71 yard. All of his points came on the ground, which is impressive for a Bills running back because that is not easy to do. And I do feel fine. I feel fine. Especially because I honestly don't think Leonard Fournette is going to be involved any more than maybe Dalvin Cook is in New York. And, Latavius Murray is going to bother James Cook owners with opportunities that should go to Cook. But honestly, I look at this. I still saw it's a fluke. I think it's going to be just fine. You roll them out, maybe buy low. I don't know if people are going to be willing to give him up, but I think it's okay.
You make a great point that the 7.1 comes all on the ground. If he has 3 catches for 20 yards in this game. He's looking at a 12.
He's not on our
game,
segment.
and you're feeling you're feeling it wasn't what you had a couple weeks ago, but you're like all right, yeah, that's fine. So get him involved in the passing game a little bit more. He'll be all right.